From the Lean Enterprise Institute in Boston, this is the WLEI podcast, where we share stories of people making the world better through lean thinking and practice. For more information about LEI, including how we can help you apply lean thinking, please visit lean.org.
Hello, I'm Lex Schroeder, and my guest today on the WLEI podcast is Fabrice Bernhard. Fabrice is co-founder of Theodo, a leading tech consultancy, and co-author of the Lean Tech Manifesto. In this episode, we talk about what it takes to create great digital products, how AI can empower people and teams, or how it can be totally misused in product development, and how AI can be used to modernize legacy systems. Good morning, Fabrice. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks so much for joining us to speak about AI and product development.
So my name is Fabrice Bernhard. I'm the co-founder of Theodo. Theodo is a tech consultancy. We're about 700 people building digital products for a wide range of clients, so all the way from startups to corporates. And one of the reasons I love the topic of today is that we've been really investing a lot of efforts in exploring how AI can help building digital products, but in particular how AI can modernize existing IT systems. And so we've been, I think, at the forefront of exploration of what is actually possible.
Wonderful. And one of the reasons, we reached out from LEI is that we know that you're doing very thoughtful work around this and not just jumping on AI to jump on AI. So I'm excited to speak with you. There's so much buzz right now about AI, so I'd love to cut straight to the chase. I'd love to hear you speak about the difference between really intentional use of AI and perhaps unwise use of AI.
Yeah, I think my expertise on lean has really helped me as a frame to understand exactly the difference between wise use of AI and unwise use of AI. I refer back to the principle of human-machine separation, like how can the technology, because for me AI is just an incredible automation technology, so how can AI empower the people or actually enslave them? And I think we're really seeing this, like there's this myth from a lot of business leaders that AI will finally automate so many things and get rid of the annoying humans. And that's, I think, the very wrong frame to look at it. Just the same way Toyota was quite careful when they started adding robots and automating their production lines, because we want to keep the human in the loop to really be able to improve the process. And we also don't want to automate any wrong process. So both are very important. And so to not automate the wrong process, of course, you have to understand really deeply what kind of work you're doing. So this is where Kaizen is so useful, so that people really understand what they're doing and really start thinking about how they could add a technology like AI, but at the right places. And then, of course, always have in mind that if you start replacing the human, then you won't be able to change the process ever again. So are you really sure that this process is ready to be fully automated? Which is, the answer is mostly no, especially in our, white collar kind of work that AI is so good at automating.
Thank you. Well said. We'll speak more about AI and product development specifically in a few moments, but first, I'd love to hear how you at Theodo and your team are helping organizations modernize legacy systems, like you said, and also just work differently. I know this is a big part of your work these days.
Yeah, so, where we come from is that software is now, everywhere. It's been eating the world for quite a while. And unfortunately, it's been the case for quite a while. So you have a lot of the world that is now running on legacy systems that are, reaching a certain level of obsolescence that is starting to be very worrying. One example I have is the FAA in the US estimates that 50% of the systems used for air traffic control, so quite critical systems, has reached a level of obsolescence that is critical, and they're really struggling to modernize them. So this is the problem that we're looking at. It's making us worried about infrastructures. It's making us worried about cyber attacks. And the question is, how can AI really accelerate that kind of modernization? And what we've seen in our R&D efforts is that AI is an amazing technology for translating. And so translating, any language to any language, but also translating legacy systems to modern systems. But also what is very interesting, and this will be, I hope, interesting for the Lean audience, is that AI is very good up to a certain size of problem. And that seems to be quite a tough engineering ceiling, that some people in Silicon Valley said would be broken in a few months and hasn't been broken for now quite a few years.
What do you know? Yeah.
As they often do. And this means that there's a huge value in the human being for the moment, breaking down the problem in small enough pieces that the AI can actually digest. And that's been a lot of the work that we've been doing. But what is interesting is once you've broken down the problem, you've done this architecture effort, then on the smaller problems, you can get a 2x to 10x productivity gain. And then overall, breaking down, automating like the translation and then reassembling, in our experience, we've been able to reach about 3 times accelerations in modernizing legacy systems, which is incredibly impactful.
Wow. And do you find that, business leaders are receptive to that frame of breaking things down into problems that AI can digest? I love the way you said that. Or do you find resistance to that and kind of people overshooting?
No, it's interesting. I think business leaders are quite aware that they would love the black box solution where you just throw everything inside an AI and comes out correct. So we do have a lot of conversations around, is that actually possible? But everybody is also very doubtful that it's actually possible. So, and so that's why, of course, our expertise is interesting because we're able to say, no, you can't throw it in a black box. These are the reasons why you can't. This is, the countermeasures that we've come up with. And this is why we have really impressive results, but not magical results either. Typically modernizations projects are huge projects, so accelerating them by 3x is good, but it still makes them big projects. So you still need to decide whether it makes sense to invest in them.
Thank you. At LEI, we talk about Jim Morgan's 6 lean product and process development principles, which I personally love because they're simple and elegant and they help people have different conversations about product and process development. And I'm curious if you look at those principles, for example, understand before you execute, or product development is a team sport, or any of the others. Can I ask where you're seeing AI prove to be most helpful at building kind of team strength?
Yeah, it's very interesting. First, what I love about the LPPD principles is that they're all very people focused. So in a sense, it's all about the people, and AI is not relevant to any of them. But if I had to pick one, I think I like the principle building and learning and knowledge reuse.
Yeah.
Because I think that's actually one of the transformational aspect of technologies in organization, and by that I mean whatever technology. When you look at Amazon or when you look at Linux, one of the things they do really well, and that's for me that I've never seen in lean thinking, is this idea that they're able to transform their organization into more network of teams, because with the teams having quite a good level of autonomy, but their interactions with the other teams is all facilitated by technology. And AI is very interesting in that sense because it's able, one of the things we do, for example, is improve our prompts. And once you improve the prompt, you can share it with the whole organization. And in a sense, the quality, for example, of your standards can be shared almost instantly with everyone in the organization without training, which has some downsides. But what I mean by that is typically for software engineers, the auto completion that they're using can be based on the kind of standards that somebody else in the organization has learned to be a good standard. And basically, without even training, they automatically benefit from the standards from other teams. So this knowledge reuse is incredible when it comes to AI.
Yeah, and in my opinion, one of the harder principles to put into practice. I think people speak passionately about about valuing learning or knowledge reuse, but building systems and structures and practices to do that is a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's very hard, especially at scale, because creating a few standards is easy, but but once you have plenty of standards, how do you structure them? How do you make sure people who need them know they exist? How do you make sure they're up to date? This is all very difficult. And I think when it comes to technology, sometimes you're able to productize some of that knowledge, and therefore, give it to other teams without them even realizing it.
Nice. Well said. What are some of the most common pitfalls that you're seeing with AI and product development specifically, either kind of the direction that leaders are giving or how product leaders are using AI or not? What are the common pitfalls?
Yes, I kind of mentioned it in the unwise use of AI. I think, I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure they really go into production, but I see a lot of desire to automate processes that, when you look at them, are just plainly wrong. So that's a common pitfall, not actually, doing the Kaizen effort to understand the job, the work, and then from that understanding, actually look at, what could be improved. And most probably, there's so much to improve before you can actually leverage AI. But of course, there's this, desire to get rid of human beings and a lot of leaders, a lot of managers. Yeah, I think that's one common pitfall, and the other one is just, yeah, one very common pitfall, and that's probably worth saying, is people just throwing the problem at AI, getting an okay result, and then kind of basing that judgment just on that result. And the reality is, there's probably ways to iterate on the prompt and on the problem and on how to break down the problem that will get you to a much better result than 80%. But that will require a lot of effort. And so that, if you can't base your judgment just based on, one quick experiment, you really have to put the 2, 3, 4, 5 days of work at really looking at, how you could improve your use of AI to make it actually work. And that's often one of the misconceptions I have to fight against. And there was this interview from one engineer at Anthropic that said you could already automate a lot of white collar jobs today with current AIs if you were ready to, spoon feed the data and the rules and all these things you put in a prompt to the AI. And that's, I think, what people don't realize. There is a very tedious effort to put into making the AI work in the first place.
Thank you for fleshing that out. Are there particular products or teams or sort of stories of learning that excite you that, in your experience working with folks that are top of mind that you could share just to ground this for people?
I mean, look, there's one example I think is reusable in so many contexts, so I'm just giving it. But when you think in terms of value stream, especially in white collar jobs, and a typical example is you have a compliance team down the stream. So you're basically producing content, usually contracts, websites, whatever, marketing, and it needs to be reviewed by a compliance team. I love the use case of creating some kind of digital clone of that team using AI, so that you get like kind of an initial feedback from what they would, from the typical feedback they would give. So to be really concrete, it could be, because we had that use case, you're producing marketing content in a pharmaceutical environment. So compliance is very important, because the way the claims you make on your website, some are legal, some are illegal. But what we realized is, if you look at the compliance rules, you can actually feed them to an AI, and then you can like feed you can give your marketing content, and actually the AI will do a really good job at identifying the first few issues in your content. And I find it very lean in the sense that you shift left quality testing. I find it amazing in terms of productivity, because instead of having a lead time of sending it to compliance, getting the feedback, you actually have instant feedback. That it also means that in terms of quality, you're empowering the team on their auto quality. So I'm sure I'm going to say that word wrong, but there's some kind of JKK in terms of really empowering the team on getting it right on their own and being able to evaluate their own quality. And so that I think that use case is very exciting, and can be, when you look at white collar jobs, there's so many places where you can look at it. There's a downstream team that is going to validate something you've produced. how could you shift left that quality check inside the team.
Thank you. And then just, to wrap up, broadly speaking, to help to connect the dots for people, we've got lean listeners who are much more familiar with sort of lean thinking practice on the whole, but not necessarily lean product and process development. We've got LPPD experts. We've got people who are very interested in generative AI, but not necessarily part of the lean community. So just to help connect the dots, how do you see lean product and process development thinking and those principles and generative AI working together to make businesses and teams stronger and ultimately to deliver more value? How do you, when you approach a client or a project, sort of aim to balance those two things?
I think well, it's a very good question, and a lot of people are looking at that product and thinking, how can I throw AI at that product to make it better? And yeah, for me, that requires very good product thinking, and very good product thinking for me, my best source of knowledge on that is LPPD thinking. So really understanding what your customers need, and work as a team to experiment. What are the game-changing innovations you could bring, and seeing AI as a new technology in your toolbox that you can use to deliver these innovations. Yeah, so I think you need if you put in the right thinking, and you will find these opportunities. I've seen so many use cases of products that have been completely transformed by AI, but usually it requires a bit out of the box thinking. It's not just the pitfall is you just go in your intercom, whatever, customer support, and you enable AI. And I've had very bad experiences with companies who've done that.
Yeah.
It's really about thinking how you can embed AI quite profoundly in your product.
Well, thank you so much. I feel like we could talk for a couple hours about this, and I have lots more questions. But thank you for your time today. If people want to learn more about your work or Theodo, or just resources that you recommend, are there a few things you could share?
Well, first, my quick plug for the book we co-authored with my business partner, the Lean Tech Manifesto. I think it's I think it's quite relevant considering the theme, because it's about how we try to translate lean principles, lean thinking principles to the tech environment, and so yes, please read the
Awesome.
book if you want. And I'm writing about lean thinking, lean tech, and how we use AI to modernize legacy systems on LinkedIn. So of course you can connect or follow me on LinkedIn.
Yes, thank you I feel like you're one of these nodes in the larger system connecting the Lean community on LinkedIn, and I've appreciated the pieces you've done with Planet Lean as well. So I was glad that to see that. All right, thank you so much, Fabrice. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye.